Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back for another video. Today's video, we're going to be doing a patch 10.4 notes rundown. This is a pretty big patch. It was a 2-week patch, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Let's just jump right into it. So here are the patch highlights. So it actually has a lot of changes, a lot of different buffs, a lot of nerfs, or not a whole lot of nerfs, but some nerfs. The big change on this patch is going to be all the new jungle champions. So there's about 4 or 5 champions that are getting changes to their kit that will make it to where their abilities help them in the jungle more. It doesn't necessarily make them a jungler. It's just giving them more options. We're going to break down each of them individually because some are going to benefit more than others. I would say Zed, Talon, and Garren actually benefit quite a bit from the jungle changes if you want to play those champion jungle, but the other two not so much. And yeah, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this patch so far. I've read it a little bit. You know, when I woke up, I just read it on my phone, but not really dove too deep into it. But a lot of the changes seem great, and then also like some of them are just kind of weird. A lot of weird changes on this patch, if I'm remembering correctly. So let's just go right into it. Cool. Amumu is getting buffed. But really this is kind of like a whatever buff. The dash speed, so this is whenever he connects his Q, the way he actually flies into them, because he's not actually unstoppable, so you can actually break that tether, meaning he can be CC'd out of that. So that's just a little bit nice, just a little bit quicker. His dash speed after he connects the bandage toss. The Curse of the Sad Mummy is reducing cooldown by 20 seconds, 20, 15, and 10 respectively. So the 20 seconds is pretty nice because his ult cooldown early games, you know, over 2 minutes. It's going to be pretty nice right there. Just a little bit over 2 minutes now. Now stops enemies in the middle of their dashes. Oh, okay. So before the stun would channel, but if it hit, then they could dash and they would displace themselves but still be stunned. So now it'll catch them out of it. So if like Lucian's dashing, it'll completely stop where he is, which I guess is nice. Look, if you're someone who's playing Amumu, you're going to love these changes. If you're not someone who plays Amumu, don't pick up this champion. This champion just doesn't belong in League. Like, I think it's going to be really hard to make this champion actually like competitively viable or like high EWA viable. It like he just kind of walks around for most of the game. It's really difficult to have this as a champion in League of Legends when other people who do similar things, CC, frontliners, / tanks, people like Zac, people like Gragas, those types of champions are always going to be better than this champion unless this champion's numbers are just insane. Which these buffs are nice, and the buffs to Synder is gonna be nice. So if you're a Mumu player, you love this. But if you're not, kind of who cares? You know what I mean? I don't know what they're gonna have to do to a Mumu to make him like playable in the game. Okay, Aphelios is getting nerfed again for like the 4th time in a row, which is nice. I think everybody is pleased about that. I think even marksman players are pleased about that, so they don't have to play this champion as much. But still gonna be good. I have a fundamental problem with how Riot thinks about this champion, like for what they put into their patch notes. I know they're just like a lot of times in the patch notes are trying to be funny and stuff like that, but do they actually think this champion's hard to play? Like, because they always say like highest skill cap champion ever released, and right here it says Aphelios is the Galaxy Brain Marksman. What are you talking about? This champion is so easy. This champion is so easy. It's just a standard hyper carry with like more abilities. It's like a hyper carry that's like Elise. You know what I mean? Elise has a bunch of abilities and she's like complicated to play because you have to like, but Elise is complicated to play because you can either just die flat out or like make an insane play, right? And you have to hit the really narrow skill shot. If minions are in the way, it's so hard to play. You have to manage so many different cooldowns. But like on Aphelios, like, yeah, you have to manage cooldowns and your guns and shit like that. But you're also just a right-click champion. Like, you're a hyper carry. You walk around and shoot people and try to not die. That is not hard to do. It blows my mind how it's always like Galaxy Brain Marksman, and like when they're releasing the highest skill champ, this champion is so easy. You just have to read their abilities. Like, you just have to read it. The difficult thing about Aphelios is just knowing what he does. But if you actually play him, like I spent like 10 minutes. So I was one of those people who just like, I didn't care about Aphelios, came out in preseason. I was just like, I'm just going to learn this champion slowly, learn what it does slowly. And then like by the time I got to pro play, so I was like, all right, I have to actually like dive deep into this and learn, because sometimes I'm watching pro play and I'm like, and I break down games for people and stuff like that. And I'm like, I really need to understand this champion better. So let me just go play in a custom. I played in a custom for 10 minutes and I was like, oh, okay. I understand completely what this champion does, what the combos are supposed to be and everything. Like this champion, like it blows. That's the biggest problem I have. I kind of went on a rant right here, but that's the biggest problem I have with like the way Riot thinks about Aphelios, that he's a high skill cap champion. Sure, I'll give you, he might be a high skill cap champion, but the skill floor, it's actually really high. Like the skill floor is really high. Like it's not hard to play this champion. Like not hard. Like if this champion's numbers are good, which his numbers are great, and they've been like insanely overbuffed, and they've been tuning them down, and they're still great. Like if this champion's numbers are fine, it's just a hyper carry. And a hyper carry on a right click champion, if their numbers are fine, as long as you right click and just hit your abilities sometimes, then you're really useful. So like this whole like Galaxy Brain Marksman just bothers me so much. This champion is ungodly easy. I mean, he's harder than Jinx. You know, he's harder than Jinx and Ashe. But like all the marksmans are so easy to play, man. So easy to play. Like so easy to play. What are you talking about? The only champions that require like a lot of finesse, like Aphelios requires a little bit of finesse, but like Xayah requires a lot of finesse. That's actually a difficult champion to play. Kai'Sa takes a lot of finesse because like laning phase is kind of difficult. You have to know your engages and shit like that. I mean, that champion's like been kind of insane for a while, but like this champion's like a little bit of finesse, but like mostly just like a Jinx like champion where you just right click people and run around. Like I don't understand. You just have more abilities. Like you just have more things you can do. It's not that it's hard. You just have more ways you can outplay your opponent. And I think if they keep tuning down his numbers, then maybe it'll be hard to play. But right now, as long as you right-click people and use your abilities, like off cooldown, basically, then you destroy everybody. It's kind of insane. But let's actually talk about the nerfs. Okay, I just had a problem with that. So players can actually now see what the second weapon is on Aphelios. And this is an amazing change. I think it was fine that you couldn't see the first weapon because nobody was going to read that tooltip who didn't play marksman, you know, who wasn't actively going to play the champion. Nobody was going to read that tooltip. Like even people like me who like kind of do this for a living, I wasn't about to read that tooltip until way later because the champion came out in preseason. So I think it was fine that wasn't out yet because I think that would have been confusing to other players to see both of the weapon icons and be like, what does that mean? I think now that people are more accustomed to the champion, actually showing the other weapon is really useful because people know the combos. Like, he has Calibrum, and then he also has the purple gun. Oh, he's about to shoot me and then stun me from 3 screens away. Okay, I need to not get hit by his skill shot that is really hard to see. I need to not stand in front of the minion. So now that people know the combos like that, he has a sniper rifle and he has the white gun. Oh, okay. If he hits me, I'm going to take half my health bar. Or if like, he has the blue gun now, maybe we shouldn't bunch together or he's going to one-shot us from 2 screens away. Anyway, sorry. I have a problem with this champion. I wish this champion's a problem. I wish it never would have been made, but neither here nor there. I'm ranting a lot right now. Wow. Okay, so now you can see the gun. So now you can see the way he's going to one-shot you or the way he's going to stun you from 2 screens away or the way that you're going to lose half your HP for no reason. You can now see which one of those things is going to happen to you. So maybe you can prepare a little bit better for it, which is cool. Okay, Aphelios no longer resets his attack timer right after consuming a mark. So after he hits you with the sniper rifle with his Q, and then he resets his gun, or he changes to his other gun to auto you with with the white gun with the chakram. Then it will automatically give him an auto attack reset. Is what this is saying. So that's nice. Cool. So they're nerfing his turret. So basically, this is a lot of changes right here. But basically, whenever you ranged auto attack his turret, it'll take 3 damage rather than 2 before. So now it'll only take 2 auto attacks to kill, which is really nice because the turret does a crazy amount of damage. And then if you hit it with spells, it'll deal 4 damage and deal, and it had 6 out before. It did 2 damage before. That is so stupid. So if you're playing like a double range bottom lane, maybe you have like a mage support like Lux, and you have Caitlyn, then Lux will just have to hit one ability onto the turret, and Caitlyn auto attacks it. So that's really nice, actually. Or Lux can just blow it up instantly with her. She just autos it. It's dead. That's really nice. Actually, a really, really nice change for especially in lane, because that is like so annoying in lane, and for like zoning people off towers. You just set it down on the ground and you actually can't walk up, or you're going to get one shot by this champion. It's kind of insane. It's really nice. Moonlight Vigil range getting nerfed slightly. I've never had a problem with how long range this ult is, because Aphelios has to basically immobilize himself to cast it. I've never had a problem with how long this range is on this ultimate. So it getting nerfed a little bit is fine, I guess. Anyways, that was like a 5-minute rant on Aphelios. I'm sorry about that. Cool. So Aurelion Sol is getting his active star damage decreased. So as far as people who actually play Aurelion Sol, nobody plays Aurelion Sol, but the people who play Aurelion Sol play Aurelion Sol, and the champion's like performing really well in solo queue. I wish we could see it in pro play, but it's just hard to get it out there. I was like optimistic that we might be able to see an Aurelion Sol, because we see champions like Tuya and stuff like that, but Tuya is mostly in there for the combo with Pantheon and Elise. But I'm confident that we'll see Aurelion Sol this year in pro play. So I'm hoping for that, but this is mainly nerfed to like solo queue Aurelion Sol for like the Aurelion Sol one trick, stuff like that, because this champion's actually been performing pretty well. So a small little nerf right there. Cool. Caitlyn is getting buffed, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. I thought this champion was in a very fine spot. Like, whenever she has good matchups, it looks really good. Like, you have Caitlyn Morgana, still the most broken combo in the game, most likely, or broken bot lane in the game. Like, if you have a duo, you just play Caitlyn Morgana, you win every game. It's kind of disgusting. Like, I already thought this champion was in a fine spot. I know Caitlyn one tricks won't think that, because like, they took away my auto cancels. That makes it to where I can shoot my gun like a machine gun, which is completely not how this champion's intended to be played, because this champion's whole point is that she's a sniper, not a burst mage. So I know like Caitlyn one tricks will disagree with me in that fact, but I thought this champion was definitely fine, in a fine spot. I thought it was like a really good spot. I thought like maybe if Aphelios got tuned down a little bit and stuff like that, we would actually maybe see some Caitlyn Morgana bottom lanes in pro play, with everybody picking for first rotation Tom Kinch and shit like that. We might actually see like a punishing bottom lane. I was ready for that. And so this is really adding more to that. So in a sense, I like it for pro play. I actually really love when Caitlyn's in pro play, because like you can actually see some people really punish with this champion, and it's like really nice to watch, like a really strong side of the map. I actually love when this champion's pro play. When the champion's insanely strong in solo queue, it's really unfun to play against. So I don't know. I don't necessarily like this change for solo queue, because I thought this champion was already fine. So I don't really understand this buff. Don't at me with win rates or anything like that. I don't care about win rates at all, unless a champion's like 41%. But even like Ryze will be 41% and be the best champion in the game. So like, I don't care about win rates. I don't. So I think this change is kind of weird. All right, my boy Garren. I love Garren, guys. I've always loved Garren since season 3. That's when I started playing. I love Garren. And I love Garen Jungle. Whenever they made the changes to Garren initially, I loved Garen Jungle. Okay, our goal is to bring back build diversity for Garren, specifically buffing his tankier builds while keeping his damage-oriented build still viable to that point. There's a change missing in this section that includes his jungle champion. So the jungle champion change is later in the patch, so we'll talk about that when we get to it. So they're buffing his shield and his attack damage ratio. So the whole idea is that back to like the Black Cleaver, Death's Dance, Sterix-esque build is what they're trying to buff. So that's what the intention of this is. And so it does buff that play style, but all of these changes also still buff the damage play style. It's kind of weird that it's weird that they wrote it in like that, because there's also, I don't think the bruiser style, like what when you think of bruiser Garren build, you think of what the build I just said. You build those 3 as damage items, and then the 2 tank items like Deadman's and like Visage or Adaptofilm, right? That's what you think about whenever you think the Bruiser Garen build. But this directly buffs the like Bruiser build that is way more damage. So like the Triforce build, Triforce, Phantom Dancer, 2 tank items. So the 2 tank items I just said before are fine. And also if you build a Infinity Edge, or if you don't want to build an Infinity Edge, you build a Essence Reaver. So you have 40% CDR, which is really valuable in Garen for maneuvering around fights. It buffs that build so hard, that the pseudo damage build where you go 2 crit items, Trinity Force, 2 tank items. You're insanely tanky because you build Phantom Dancer as one of your crit items. And then you have so much damage. It's actually insane how much damage you have. I think it just buffs that build more, not even like what they're intending. Like, sure, if you want to build the Sterex Black Cleaver build, this is a buff to Garren, but I really think the Trinity Force build is just so much better. The Trinity Force double crit item is just so much better. So I think they really are confused on how they did this change, because you're upping his damage value, which is going to benefit the Trinity Force build. You upped his base values, so you're giving him a base value shield right here, right? With a scaling health, with a scaling bonus health, which obviously helps a Bruiser build, but the base value addition to here is so good for the damage build, because you just get this huge base value. Once you're like rank 12 and you have a couple points into this, or more like rank 14, and you're gonna have like 3 ranks in this, the base value is so nice on here. And then at max resistances for enemy kills, Garen increases bonus armor and magic resist, which definitely benefits the tank build. But as I keep saying, in the damage build, you already build tank items. There's no reason to build 4 crit items on Garen. I know a lot of people look for it. There's really no reason. You do an insane amount of damage, even with just the 2 tank items, which is Deadman's and Visage, or Deadman's and Adaptive Helm, or Deadman's and Stoneplate. You already have an insane amount of damage. You don't need to build any more. So you're going to get the benefit from this passive as well. I really think they misunderstood how you build Garen. I really think they fundamentally misunderstood how much damage Garen deals without building a bunch of damage items. You can just build the upfront damage items and you do an insane amount of damage. So I thought this was kind of weird. At least their intention was kind of weird. And then he has a jungle change to his E that we're going to talk about in a minute. I really think Jungle Garen's going to be good. I was already playing Jungle Garen whenever he got changed initially with his attack speed. It was like not that great, but I just love Garen. So Gnar is getting changed, so his base movement speed is going up, but his mini Gnar, so if you don't know how Gnar works, his mini Gnar has additional movement speed right here, right? That's getting nerfed, so essentially he has the same movement speed on his mini Gnar, but he has more movement speed on his mega Gnar. So that's what that change means right there. So that's what both of these changes mean. And then Gnar's ultimate has a higher attack damage ratio, which is pretty cool, because if you're building that split push Gnar build, which is pretty good, especially in solo queue, and you'll even see it in pro play where you build like Frozen Mallet or Blade of the Rune King, Black Cleaver, Trinity Force, those items, actually that attack damage buff is really nice for actually side laning. And then it's also nice if you're going to go Jungle Gnar, which they're trying to make him, but I really don't think Jungle Gnar is very good because of the way his passive works. It's kind of weird. Anyways, this is really nice because Gnar was on the struggle bus. I think he's going to start being played in pro play a lot with these changes, actually. Okay, Jayce. Jayce should now be more creative to fend off opponents. So he's getting buffed. Okay, he has more mana and has a little bit more damage. So Jayce has been a little bit on the struggle bus, but just because the whole deal with Jayce right now is that why play Jayce when Lucian exists? Because Lucian is just better Jayce. So just a nice little buff right here. I think he'd probably get a couple more slow buffs, and then he'll be what everybody thinks of when they think of Jayce, that like actual real lane boy. I'm fine with Jayce not being the meta. I think everybody's fine with Jayce not being the meta, but I think this isn't enough to bump him up above Lucian. I think he needs a couple more small buffs before he starts actually being played. I think he's playable in pro play for sure. And if you're Jayce one trick or you play a lot of Jayce, then this is a nice change. Okay, Lux is getting changed. So Lux is getting buffed directly for support. So the way they buff for support champions is they up base values and lower AP ratios. So this is actually really good for Lux support, because Lux support, you don't build a lot of damage, contrary to popular belief, right? You're supposed to build the Athene's build and like a Redemption, and you're more of like a utility mage, like a utility sniper mage. So they up the base values by 10. 10 is the same for whatever reason at rank 3, and then 10 and then 10. This is usually the ability you max second. On support Lux. You max the shield first, and mid lane Lux you usually max E for the wave clear, but you usually max E last. Cooldown getting reduced by 2 seconds at rank 1 is really nice because it's going to be rank 1 for until obviously to level 5, and then it's going to be rank 3 for a while. So rank 3 is the same, but at rank 1 it's much better, which is really nice. And in late game it's the same. So just your early laning and ability to survive ganks is a little bit better, because sometimes you go up to poke with your Q or look for an engage and then you get ganked shortly after that. So her ability to avoid ganks is going to be a little bit nicer, and to do gank assist is going to be nicer for her Q flash. Okay, R. So Lux can now flash while casting Final Spark. Okay, so this was confusing whenever I read this, and then I had to look some shit up because I was like, wait, are they for real? So what I thought this meant is that she can cast her ultimate, flash to the side, and change the direction of her, or change her position of her ultimate. That is not true. So what it actually is intended to be is that she can cast her ultimate, and within the animation can flash away, and then it will still shoot it off, which thematically makes zero sense to me. I haven't actually seen what this looks like, but it sounds like they're creating what you would think would be a bug in the game. Because if you actually watch Lux animate her ultimate, she jumps up and she's spinning her thing around to shoot the blast off, and she does the whole animation and blasts it off, and then she's back down, and she's basically CCing herself. And so now they're making it to where she can un-CC herself. I guess maybe she'll still be in the air, but the laser won't be coming out of her anymore. Let's say you were casting the ultimate, and then a Yasuo was came up to you and started hitting you. Then you could flash backwards and the ultimate would still finish. That kind of makes no sense to me. That would look if I saw that in the game, I was like, oh, that's a bug. So that kind of makes no sense to me. And thematically, and to what she is as a champion, that doesn't make any sense to me either, because the whole point of Lux is that she's a long-range sniper rifle-esque mage, and that you're really rewarded for positioning correctly, standing behind walls and stuff like that. If you are in range of the enemy that you have to flash out of your ultimate animation, you probably messed up, or you're taking a risk and you probably deserve to die at that spot while you're channeling your ultimate. So I think it just rewards playing Lux incorrectly. And so I don't like that. I think it's really weird. So this is a lot of problems I have with this patch, is it does a lot of weird things that don't make any sense for the actual play patterns and what the higher level of play on these champions are. It seems to reward making mistakes. It rewards making mistakes on this champion. And then the way that the Garren changes don't make much sense for what they're intending. When you're reading patch notes, you always have to think the intention of the game developer, and sometimes they'll even tell you their intention, with the Garren one. You got to think of what is the intention of the game developer, and then do those changes meet those intentions? And then after that, do those intentions make any sense? And so this intention doesn't make any sense of this. And then the Garren, the intentions make sense. But the change doesn't accurately move to their intentions. So it's a bunch of weird changes on this patch, in my opinion. Okay, Rammus is getting some attack speed buffs, which is nice, but Rammus is just in a really bad spot. But with the Cinder Hulk buffs, maybe he's a little bit better. We'll have to see. We'll talk about Cinder Hulk when we get to it. Singe is getting nerfed a little bit, which nobody plays Singe, and nobody's happy to see Singed on their team, and nobody's happy to see Singed on the enemy team. But I'm really happy when he's competitively viable. He got played in the LEC, and that was really exciting. So I'm kind of sad he's getting nerfed. And most of the champions in top lane right now are AD, so this nerf is really kind of hurting him. It makes me kind of sad, but honestly, there's not a lot of Singe players out there. I don't think hardly anybody cares about this change, but I do miss that. Probably will just kind of push him out of pro play, and he was barely in. Okay, Sona top is getting nerfed, and so these nerfs are nice, and then they're not. So I actually really like the change. And so check it. This is what's happening. So they're upping her mana cost on all of her abilities, but also now giving her a 30 mana return on all of her abilities, which is in turn buffing support and bottom lane Sona, because it's giving you 30 mana back. And so look at the mana values. It was 80, now it's 105. So you get 30 back. So you're actually getting 5 mana back that you didn't have before on every single ability. And so if you're spamming, that's 15 mana. And so if you're building bot lane Sona and you build a tier, that is really valuable. That's 15 mana back every skill rotation. So I think I don't know if this change is going to make it to where Sona bot is being played, but I think people are already wanting to play it. So this really buffs Sona bot lane. It's really nice for Sona support, and I'm all in favor of it, but it really buffs Sona bot lane, so I'm a little scared. Getting her out of top lane is nice. The Soraka nerfs are pretty huge. So her base health, this is a buff right here. So her base health value is up a little bit. Her health growth is down. So she just has more health in the early game, less later. All right. But it probably averages out about the same when you get to the late game. Cool. Mana is up. Mana growth is down. So they're upping her base value, just lowering her growth. And then her attack damage is just evened out. It's 0.04. It's just to make it even. They do that a lot with the champions now. They just kind of make their numbers solid whenever they're looking at their numbers. Okay, the Star Call self-heal is down pretty significantly. So the base value is down by 20 at rank 1, 30 at rank 2, 40 at rank 3, 50. So it scales up even more by 10 as you go up. So it's nerfing the Star Call start or Star Call max. It still does the same damage, I believe. The mana cost is up by 20 at rank 1. That's actually insane. 20. So I'm actually fine with this mana cost change because I don't know if any of you have played Soraka top or even Soraka support. If you take biscuits and mana flow, you actually don't ever run out of mana. You can spam your abilities. I mean, you'll run out of mana if you're just constantly using them, but like you can spam your abilities kind of like how nobody else can. That's what it feels like. So I don't mind this mana nerf right here. The bonus movement speed is down quite a bit. So this is destroying solo lane Soraka, and also makes her really vulnerable. So 20% at max rank. It used to be 35%. A lot of ways Soraka survives, she just runs away from you. Movement speed nerfs on champions like this are really, really, really huge. I think this champion is mostly dead as a champion entirely. I think this movement speed nerf is insane. Like your ability to actually kill this champion is so much easier. Like your job to do this is so much easier. Obviously the silence messes you up, but like the way that Soraka players are actually going to have to position and run away from fights, it makes it so much harder with this nerf. And also you're not incentivized to max this early anymore. Because of the mana values and because of the base value damage or base value heal is so low. So you're really not incentivized to even max this. It's incentivizing you to max W. So she's basically being a heal bot. But while she's being rejuvenated, which is when you hit them with the Q and you're getting your rejuvenation passive, the health cost that you have to pay for your W is reduced. This change is awesome because if you max it early, if you land your Q, then you can now heal your teammates for free. That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool for like good Soraka players who can land their Qs and stuff like that. But I don't know how this change will go. I feel like this champion might be dead, but her base health values is being buffed quite a bit. I think it's just really hard to play this into like what a lot of the meta champions are. A lot of assassins mid, a lot of engaged supports. I think it's really difficult to play this champion now unless you like. It's really hard to blind pick the champion. If they're going to pick engaged supports and assassins, I think it's really hard to play because your movement speed nerf is so huge. So yeah, this change is kind of weird, but I mean, these champions needed to get out of solo lanes. Nobody was happy. So I was getting a buff on his Q, really starting at rank 3. So it's incentivizing maxing this early. It's just a 20 damage. If they really needed the buff, the damage to minions on this ability, needed to add a passive that buffs damage to minions. And then this champion will be much better because he can't wave clear early. Like as well as other early wave clear champions, and then he kind of just bides his time till he gets 6 and hopes there's some good ultimates. Like his champion's just really whack right now, and then late game he's really, really strong, and they're basically just buffed his late game, which kind of makes no sense. They gave him 10 damage on rank 3, which is negligible, and then 20 is buffing his late values, but they really need to buff his early game because his late game is already insane, but his like early ability to clear in the early game is really sucks. Is really bad. Like clearing the first couple waves is really bad. Udyr now gets a 5% off cooldown off of all of his abilities. If he gets Cloud Drake, who cares? Okay. All right, cool. Here are the jungle changes. I think this is what everybody's interested in. So passive, so Darius's hemorrhage damage now deals 120% damage to all monsters. That's a pretty big buff. And then his Q will now heal from large monsters. Okay, so is Darius jungle viable? Absolutely not. I really don't think so. Darius as a champion functions by having 2 mobility spells, by having Flash and Ghost. So you could argue maybe just taking Flash and Blue Smite. So obviously he can have Flash and Blue Smite. Blue Smite is not the same as Ghost. But I think if you're playing this in solo queue, sure. Yeah, he's going to beat everybody 1v1. So you can play around that. I think if you want to play this champion in solo queue, you can be successful at it for sure. But as far as this champion actually being a real jungle champion, I don't think so. I think these changes actually really benefit, like if you're Darius and you want to take your junglers Krugs or Gromp because they're playing on opposite side of the map. Because if you're playing jungle and you're playing towards top side, I think you're trolling anyways. Then you can now take your laner's camp. So I actually think this really helps top lane Darius a lot, because you can go into your own jungle and like kill the Gromp super fast and then heal off of it with your Q. I think it's actually pretty good buff for lane Darius. I really don't think you should be playing Darius jungle. You should just be playing something else. Honestly, there's people who can skirmish just as good as Darius that are much better at mobility around the map, like Olaf. He's a 1v1 champion just like Darius, but actually can get around the map and shit like that. So changes are nice, but kind of whatever. I think Diana, her passive getting buffed, increased by 100% on non-epic monsters. That's actually insane because you already full clear on this champion a lot. This champion was already competitively viable and was already playable in the jungle. I think this champion's actually going to be kind of strong in the jungle if you're a good Diana player. Also gives you another AP option. Runic Echoes is a great item. It's been one of the best. It's been like the best jungle item for a really long time now. It got buffed 1 million times like 2 seasons ago or last season. I think maybe last season. But Diana will be really nice, I think, in the jungle. All right, Garen's E damage, along with his other nerfs. I didn't even know he was getting those nerfs until I read the patch notes today. Now deals 150 damage to non-epic, not 150% damage to non-epic monsters. Dude, your Raptor clear, after first back, you put 2 points in your E. You go Q max in the jungle because you need to move around. You go 2 points in your E early, go Q, and then go Q max. It's actually insane. How fast you clear your jungle if you're doing the Raptors and Krugs. It's actually crazy. Raptors, Krugs, and Wolves, you clear so fast. Love it. I love Garen. I don't think he'll ever be played in pro play unless people are running some weird enchanter comps with like Yuumi. Okay, that would be insane if like they ran Yuumi bot Garen Jungle. That would be actually insane. Maybe you'll see that. I could see somebody like theory crafting that. I would love to see that, but I don't think you're going to see it in pro play other than that. Okay, Gnar is his hyper damage, so that's his 3-hit passive. Can now deal 300 damage. It used to be damage capped early. I mean, if you want to play Gnar jungle, okay, cool. He got a couple other buffs onto his damage value. So if you're going to go warrior or something like that, Cinderhulk is getting buffed as well. I think it's hard to play Gnar in the jungle because of the way his passive works. You really want to be Mega Gnar when you enter, like shortly after you enter the lane. So you have to manage your Rage passive. Take it a little bit to get used to that. If you're a jungle player, you probably don't play Gnar. So I think it's going to, I don't think we're going to see this champion. He can jump over walls, which is cool, but I don't know. I think it's hard to make this champion in the jungle work when there's other jungle champions. Okay, passive. So his passive will now deal more damage. So it deals a higher base value. Plus 10. Really, really nice, actually, because he does a talisman clear. I think this is nice. I think Mordekaiser is much better in a solo lane, but in terms of like, I think for competitive, this is actually a pretty cool change because you can build like, maybe you want to build like a utility build on Mordekaiser, slowing people down, but don't build like purely for damage. Like you'll see a lot of Nashor builds and stuff like that. You build more of a utility style build. Maybe you can flex them into the jungle, get a lot of value out of your draft and pro play. That's what I think this change is cool for drafting and pro play. Might see it. And then like, obviously he's not an amazing ganker and stuff like that, but you could just set up comps where you power farm this jungle to 6 and then you fight over objectives and you have a Mordekaiser ultimate at objective fights. So you can ult the enemy jungler out of the fight and smite the camp, shit like that. So, or not smite the camp, but like if your team's gonna get it and someone's coming in for just for a steal, you can, ult the enemy jungler out. Your team takes the objective. There's just a lot of ways you can play because Mordekaiser ultimate is so valuable in pro play, and just being able to have him at every team fight with his ultimate is actually really valuable. So I could possibly see this being played in pro play. And solo queue would be fine, like for sure be fine, but I don't think he's gonna be like top tier jungle pick. He's just a really strong champion. So if you want to play him in the jungle, I think it's fine. Talon, I'm so excited for Talon. So his abilities now wound all monsters for 120% damage. So if you don't know, wound is his passive. So when he hits you with 3 abilities, so he can get you with both parts of his W, and then you can Q auto attack reset. You'll make monsters bleed, large monsters, and it's pretty insane. It's actually pretty insane how quickly and how healthy like your Raptor Talisman clear is or early game. I've been testing it out quite a bit. And actually some of the gank paths you can get in mid lane, because everybody knows the Talon solo queue experience. He's going to try to solo kill your mid laner at level 2. He's going to cheese flash ignite him, try to get level 2 first, and then he's going to buy Tiamat, and Moby Boots, and he's going to completely ignore his laner and kill bottom lane over and over and over and over and over and over again. Everybody knows the solo lane experience for Talon, but the jungle experience for Talon is going to be very different, because since you don't see Talon gank his own lane a whole lot, I mean, you obviously can, but like the actual gank patterns for mid are like the same for like Lee Sin. Like the way you had the ward hop over the Raptor wall, you can ward hop over the opposite side as well. Like you actually can make some really cool stuff happen. I've been testing it a lot on PvE. It's actually really cool, and I'm really, really excited for Talon jungle. I don't think it'll be competitively viable. His damage on objectives has actually been insane forever. That's why you might have seen some Talon jungles before, but his damage against neutrals are really good because you can bleed the neutrals, and it actually does an insane amount of damage. Your Dragon Query is actually really strong. Okay, Zed is getting changed. So his passive, which is his kind of execute auto attack, is increased by 100% against monsters. Pretty hype. And the capping on monsters is increased. So from 120 to 200. So this makes his Raptor and his Krug's clear really, really good. So I imagine he's going to be a Talisman jungler in the early game, even though he doesn't use mana, obviously, but you have all AoE spells. You can do your QE on the Raptors and basically just auto attack each of the little minions, each of the little Raptors, and execute them with your auto attack damage. So I'm pretty excited about this. This is the 10.3 follow-up changes, so I'm not really going to talk about this. Just they gave some base value buffs to Akali, so they gave her a lot more damage. Actually, a pretty solid champion still. I mean, she had 15 ways to outplay you before. Now she has 14, so the champion's still super insane. Just kind of the play pattern slightly different. And then Yumi got a base buff as well. And then what did Lucian just fixed a bug where Lucian's critical damage modifier against non-minions is 1 instead of 0.75. Oh, weird. Okay, I didn't even know that. Okay, Exhaust is getting buffed, so that's a big buff to Enchanter supports like Soraka, like Janna, so kind of some compensation buffs, and with all the engage supports happening. So they're making a bunch of changes that buff Enchanters and tanks a lot. So really interesting what that does to actual pro play. I don't think this changes a whole lot for solo queue. Exhaust is actually a good summoner in mid lane. If you're playing like Corki into like an assassin, you're playing like a scaling mid laner into an assassin, it's actually pretty solid already. But this is even nicer. So the duration's 3 seconds rather than 2.5. It's actually pretty insane. Now I'll also show you how much damage you're reducing. So that's pretty cool. Halo Blades is getting this weird buff. I think it's fine. It just gives you more time to proc it. So if you go in for a trade and you don't proc all the auto attacks, it just gives you 1 extra second to do it. And then when you go out of combat, it gives you more. So this is actually pretty nice for like a champion. Like they say their intention is to broaden the more people who use Halo Blades, but I just think the people who use Halo Blades already just like this change. I think this is actually nice for Kha'Zix, because if you go in for a short trade with like just your ultimate and then you walk away, you can get your Halo Blades passive really quickly, and then you can jump back in and hit them with it if you didn't use your jump to engage the fight, or maybe you didn't use your ultimate to engage the fight. Or you do R evolve, you can go in, do it, and then use both durations of your R, then come back and get another Hail of Blade. So I think it's a buff to that. Is like the only thing I can see with their intention. And then also to like Xin Zhao, you go in for a big trade with your E, you walk away, and then your E is a short cooldown if you end up maxing it second, and then you go in for another trade. So I think it just buffs the people who already use it, but I don't think it's that huge. I think it's probably good for if you're playing on Kha'Zix. I think it's nice. Legends runes are just making it to where you have to kill more minions to get it. This is just a nerf to pro play basically, and a slight nerf to solo queue, but you get most of the stacks in solo queue just from killing enemies rather than killing minions. So this is like kind of a non-relevant change, just like a tiny nerf to the legend runes, because you take them in bottom lane and stuff like that. So this change to stopwatch is really interesting. I'm gonna kind of like power through some of these end changes because they're kind of small. But now instead of 10 minutes, you get it at 14 minutes. But now takedowns reduce this by 2 minutes. This is a big buff to if you're taking perfect timing on support and jungle, and somewhat mid lane, because you should have a lot of takedowns on support, jungle, and AD. So if you end up taking this support, jungle, or AD, which you don't usually take this on AD, you take free boots. Usually, it's a big buff to that. Actually, I really think it's a buff because all you need to do is get 2 takedowns for it to be the same. If you're playing jungle and support, you're probably gonna have like 4 takedowns by 10 minutes. So it'll unlock at 8 minutes. So I think it's a big buff to that. No longer additionally reduces the cooldown of Guardian Angel, Gargoyle, Stonepoint, Zhonya's Hourglass. I don't think that was like super impactful initially. Anyways, I don't think that's why anybody was taking it. I think they were taking it so they can put it into their build path. And also just because it's like just an outplay tool that you won't have to buy. And then they're making it cost a little bit more. But I think it actually just buffs if you already take it, and then nerfs if you have to buy it. So yeah, I think it's kind of a weird change. I don't think stopwatch needed to be changed. I thought it was in a fine spot actually, even though it's like very strong. I thought it was in a fine spot. So phase rush is getting the same treatment that Hail of Blades is getting. So 4 seconds, and then a melee champions get 30% rather than 25%. That's really cool. I actually really like that. And then an additional 10%. So the champions who are already using it are really gonna like this change. But I don't think it really changes that much. But the melee champions I want to use like Xin Zhao. It's going to be really nice on him. I'm trying to think of a couple other melee champions. You don't really take it on Darius because you just take Ghost. Shoot, man, maybe you take this on Jungle Darius. Who knows? I'm trying to think of melee champions that really like this rune. I think it's just Xin Zhao, but Xin Zhao would rather have Hail Blades most of the time. So I don't know. Maybe you guys can figure it out. Okay, prototype Omni Stone. So it just will no longer draw, press the attack, or conquer at level 1 because it's difficult to proc. Okay, just quality of life buff. This keystone is really close to being good on a lot of champions. It's pretty decent on Bard. It's okay on Ezreal. There's a couple other champions you can utilize it, but just not coming on top of my head. But it's really close to being strong actually. Maybe just like one more change and it'll be good. But I think there are some use cases for it already. Now properly grants a 10% slow resistance. So that's nice. It just wasn't doing it before. It already gave you the CC resistance, but not the slow resistance. So that's nice. Okay, Balmy Synder. Balmy Synder and all the Balmy Synder items are getting buffed. So now we'll give you your next immobilizing ability. Deals 6 to 23 plus 0.02 of your bonus health. That's on the regular Balmy Synder. And then on Cinderhulk, it does, the base value is 12. And on Sunfire, the base value is 26. It goes up more. So this is a really nice buff for tank junglers like Sejuani, Zac, J4, those type of champions will apply on J4's knockup. This is actually really nice. Whenever I was playing this on PvE, I was reading the tooltip and I was like, wait, did I just not know this? When did this get changed? Because I didn't see it like any on the PvE patch notes. I actually thought, I was like, man, I'm trolling. How did I not know this? I've been playing jungle for years. I love tanks. Like, how did I not know this? I felt like a fraud. Anyways, but I'm glad to see this on the patch notes. It's really nice. This Sunfire cape change, when I was reading this, I was like, oh man, this is such a huge Ornn buff because you can get it off of your brittle passive. Whenever you hit your brittle and then you just auto attack them, getting an extra 26 damage. You build this first item if you're in an AD matchup. That's pretty nice. And just Balmy Synder, getting the 6 is whatever, but getting 26, that's pretty nice for some trades. It's a 10-second cooldown, scales up really nice. Baby, everything's coming up on this year. It's a pretty good buff to like Maokai, which I think Maokai was already playable. And it'd just be really interesting if he's going to be playable like into some of the people who beat tanks like Aatrox, stuff like that. If Maokai's end up being playable into those, then we might see a Maokai Enchanter meta in pro play, which is exciting, I guess. I love tanks, honestly. I'm ready for tanks to come back for a little bit. But anyway, so slow resistant calculations. We're making an adjustment to how slow resistance stacks on champions to match tenacity stacking. Now slow resistance will stack multiplicity instead of linearly. As an example of the change, 30% slow effects will now reduce slows by 51% rather than 61%. So it's less. Oh, okay. Kind of makes me sad. I mean, nobody builds slow resist anyways. Nobody builds Swifties and shit like that unless you're playing against like Ash, like an Ash comp. Login region selector. Okay, nobody cares. Crash reporting. We now have a crash handling system going live on the patch. This will automatically collect crash data to help diagnose the issues. Crash reports help us improve the game because it alerts us when something goes wrong. You can opt out of the automatic crash reports collecting. Okay, hopefully this is helping fixing their client. I really hope so. I usually don't do bug fixes, but there was a Lee Sin bug fix that I was looking at because I was reading this. So Lee Sin's abilities now properly count per use towards electrocute. I have actually noticed when I play Lee Sin or when I'll do practice tool, I'll just practice this combo sometimes like as a warm-up, not really even if I'm playing him, just a warm-up to, it's a good warm-up champion to really get your mechanics on point. I was noticing my electrocute just wouldn't proc when I know I hit them 3 times. Like I'd hit them with QQE or QQ auto E and it just wouldn't even apply, and that was 4. So I thought that was weird. So hopefully that fixes that. That's the only thing I was saying. Upcoming skin, Blood Moon Yi and Katarina. Yi's getting his like 30th skin. That's cool, I guess. Blood Moon Tryndamere looks awesome. I'm really hyped for that skin. Looks pretty cool. Okay, so the patch highlights. I love the jungle changes. Are amazing. Tanks are getting buffed. Enchanters are getting buffed. I don't mind these changes because those have all been bad for a while. Hail Blades was kind of whatever. Jungle changes were awesome. I think the Darius change was kind of buff solo lane Darius. Honestly, the Diana change might make her like OP, especially if you're a competitive play because she was already viable in the jungle and in solo lanes. Udyr changes nothing. Silas changes nothing. Soraka is probably a dead champ, I think. If you're already playing Soraka, then you can still play her and play her as a heal bot. But I think the skill cap for Soraka is just a little bit higher now. Sona is buffed hugely, but Sona solo lane is nerfed. Like Sona solo lane is dead. But I think this buff is really nice for Sona support and really scary if it starts to being played bottom lane. Singe nerf makes me sad. Ramus buff is nice because tank junglers are getting buffed in general, so maybe he's playable now. Lux changes. The Q change was awesome. I really like the Q change for support Lux. I love support Lux. The ult change makes absolutely no sense to me. How she actually functions as a champion. Jayce getting a nice little buff, probably not enough to make him viable yet. Maybe enough to make him play him. It's just why I play him when Lucian exists. Gnar getting buffed is really nice because that champion's been a dead champ for like 2 years. I don't think he's playable in the jungle. I think it's really weird in the jungle. Maybe it'll be figured out, but I don't think you'll be seeing it pretty soon. I think it needs a little bit figuring out to do because his passive is just kind of weird for the jungle. For solo lane Gnar, I think it's awesome. I think Gnar is already creeping back up. Garen changes. God bless Garen. Caitlyn, I don't know why she got buffed. It's kind of weird. I hope we see her in pro play because I like when she's in pro play, but solo queue is not fun to see. Aurelion Sol was just nerfed for like Aurelion Sol 1 tricks. Aphelios nerfed again. Yay, rejoice. Everybody loves that. Mumu, this champion needs to be reworked or something. Cool. Anyways, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This video is almost an hour long. That's insane. There's a huge patch. So yeah, exciting stuff. Anyways, thanks so much for coming by. I'll be doing some tier list for this patch for every role. Maybe not immediately, but I think everybody will be really interested in the jungle tier list. I'll have to mess around with that a bit. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, so be looking out for the jungle tier list. Be looking out for... I'll probably be doing a Garen jungle guide. I might do a Talon jungle guide as well. Maybe, possibly, a Zed. I'm not going to do Darius or anything like that. I already did a Diana guide, so be looking out. If you want to check that out, you can check that out. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.